The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to another expert panel discussion hosted by Page One Power. Today we'll be discussing the Penguin algorithm, past, present, and the future. I am your host, Nicholas Chimonas. We're broadcasting live from beautiful Boise, Idaho. We just got our Telegram up and running, as you can see. This is real. What you're seeing is a live broadcast. Your panelists for today. As I mentioned, I'm Nicholas Chimonas. I'm the head of R&D at Page One Power, specializing in our technical projects, especially Penguin, research, disavow, Panda recovery, all of that kind of thing. Today we have with us Marie Haynes. She is an independent search marketing consultant. She specializes in Google penalties and algorithm changes, particularly Penguin. Marie, say hello and tell us about what you do.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is going to be a really good discussion. Well, I think you summarized it. I mean, I do a lot of work with penalized sites and sites that just aren't performing as well as they should on Google, and I do a lot of problem solving to help people do better.
Thanks for that.
Looking forward to this. I think it should be, good discussion.
Yeah, it's we have 3 riddle solvers with us today, and that's absolutely one of my favorite things about penalty recovery. So also with us today is Paul Macnamara. He is the owner and SEO consultant at paulmacnamara.com. He's been in the industry for over 15 years and specializes in penalty diagnosis and recovery consultation. You've probably seen him tweeting from @TheRealPMac. Please say hello, Paul, and tell us about yourself.
Great to be here, guys. As Marie said, I think this is going to be a great discussion. As you said, I've been working in search in one capacity or another for about 15 years, whether it be doing my own e-commerce, affiliate marketing, and now as a consultant. But over the last couple of years, I've taken a real interest in penalty recovery, diagnosis, and providing blueprints that allow businesses to recover.
We certainly appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today. Thanks for coming, Paul.
Thank you.
And our final guest is Barrie Moran. He is the digital marketing director at HitReach. Also has been in the industry for over 15 years, working with brands all over the world, out of Scotland with us today. Thanks for joining us, Barrie. Say hello.
Pleasure, thanks, and just echo what Marie and Paul said. Really looking forward to this. I've been in the industry a long time, on the nice side and the not so nice side of digital marketing. The not so nice side being cleaning up a lot of penalties and taking that forensic look to make sure that people can actually achieve the commercial goals they want to.
All right, thanks for joining us, Barrie. We're really stoked to have you here. HitReach is a very respected agency. If you haven't, go check out their blog and learn some knowledge. Join the extended conversation with us online, the Twitter sphere, at Page One Power. The hashtag for today's webinar is #P1PWebinar. Without further ado, we'll jump into it. Remember to submit questions throughout the panel. As we see them, we'll try to address them. Anything we can't get to that naturally fits in our discussion will be addressed at the end. So, first question. Why do you think Google took so long to release a new version of Penguin? It was 707 days between the last Penguin update and the most recent one, which was September 2016. Let's jump right into this. Marie, what do you think took Google so long after the extended promises? We think it's going to come out this quarter, but then a year later it finally does. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, that was really frustrating for people who were waiting to escape Penguin, just how long it took. And I think that Google really wanted to release it sooner. I think that when they said, hey, it's going to be coming within the next, what did they say, 3 weeks or something, that they firmly believed it was going to come. And then I think the challenge for Google was they were trying to find a way that they could fight spam links but not penalize people unfairly. And so they wanted to make it so that negative SEO through links was almost impossible to do. And that's really hard to catch, am I doing this to my own site or is it a competitor doing it? So I would love to be, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall to see, how big is the team that worked on this, and was it their main project? But it seems to me that the whole issue was, how do we make an algorithm that fights spam and doesn't unfairly penalize?
Absolutely. And I've pondered the same things and unanswerable questions, I'm sure. What exactly was happening? What obstacles were they running into? You know, what was going so wrong? And this is pioneered machine learning. They're doing things that have never been done before, but the 2-year wait really was tough, and it became difficult on what to consult businesses. I mean, Paul, I'm pretty interested in what kind of blueprints you were laying out after it had been a year. You know, within the first year, we kept getting messages from Google that it's still coming soon. So yes, we were telling businesses it's worth investing in this cleanup. You need to take care of this because pretty soon Penguin's going to hit. You'll see your recovery, etc. But then it became longer and more extended. Did that change the type of blueprint you were providing businesses, or how have you dealt with that recovery period in between and since?
It was actually, you know, I think for a lot of us that were working in the spaces, this is a bone of contention, because we had Google representatives, you know, making it clear that sites could recover. And so we took that advice and we provided that information to our clients. And as a result of that, many of these clients invested a lot of resources into not only cleaning up problematic links, but by acquiring the types of links that, you know, potentially should allow the site to recover. And when we didn't see a refresh of the algorithm, it was really frustrating because these were real people with real businesses, and, you know, in many instances, I don't want to say they were duped by SEOs, but they weren't doing anything malicious in any way, and yet they were punished in a very severe fashion. And you know, the whole thing was such a gong show, in my opinion. I don't understand why this needed to be a punitive algorithm at all. Why didn't they just do what they're doing now right from the beginning? If they didn't trust the link, why didn't they just either devalue or ignore the link? And it just became an absolute gong show. I don't really think that they realized the kind of worms that they had opened when Penguin came into existence. And then what to do about it now? Was the new iteration going to have a punitive component to it, or were they just going to devalue or ignore these links? So it was frustrating for certain.
I think that's one of the biggest questions right there, is why from the very beginning was Penguin a punitive algorithm? And
well, they wanted to instill fear. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to bully the webmaster community, and that's, in my opinion, that's what they did. They wanted to instill fear.
And it was
they did. Yeah, they did. They went straight for the FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and trying to get people to consume that mantra of good content. All you need is good content, right, and get them scared to link. And you've seen that when people tried to. People went wrongly about trying to clean up links in the first instance. There was a lot of confusion and misinformation put out there. People didn't understand the process between, you know, proper link cleanup, disavow file, reconsideration, and Google still don't do themselves any favours sometimes in coming out with a clear understanding of, you know, what the expectations are and what the process involved is.
Yeah. So we did what we had to do. I mean, we did the disavows. Eventually, you know, some of this may have come through, but for us, one of the big process changes was that we had to focus on telling clients that it's about building new links. It's about building up good equity. Even though you have all this spam out there, all we can do is what Google tells us. We can find all the spam, we can make a disavow list, we can remove as much as possible. And it's our most proactive solution, but there's no guarantee of when it's going to come through. So building links was the focus.
That was the frustrating thing for me. I have so many emails of people saying, you know, I don't know if I should start over, scrap this business. You know, I'm tied to my brand name, to my URL, and I would say, well, who knows? They could rerun Penguin tomorrow. It could be a month from now. It could be a year from now. And in some of those cases, it was like 2 years after that email And so that was the frustrating thing for me, was the lack of communication. And I understand that they don't want to give power to the people who are outright spamming the algorithm, but like Paul said, there were so many legitimate good businesses that just hired the wrong company. You know, and you get all these emails of like, hey, we'll build 100 links for you for $100, and business owners don't know. I mean, hopefully they do now, but it was just really frustrating to see the really legitimate good businesses that were suppressed for years.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, well, was that because it took so long in that initial period, and where there had been a number of sites that were punished, whether they had actively known what they were doing or not knowing what they were doing beforehand, you still saw quite a number of sites ranking in different verticals who had absolutely horrendous link profiles, and they seemed to sort of skate through and never quite get the punishment. And that was, again, frustrating for legitimate business owners out there who were engaging with the likes of us, who were trying to clean up their act, move forward on the right footing, and yet they see, you know, people in their competition space who have got worse profiles than they did and who hadn't been penalised.
And you still see that today. You can't swing a cat in a semi-competitive vertical without seeing links that you would think would be problematic.
Absolutely. And I've even been looking into some of the, you know, online marketplaces like FEI International and Empire Flippers, those types of sites that are selling, you know, flipping websites. There are still tons of websites out there that are ranking on seemingly only spam. And there's not a natural link in the profile that you can find, and it's still happening. And that was definitely a frustrating conversation with business owners, trying to give them good advice. They can see their competitor is ranking on all of this spam. We're telling them, well, the best advice I can tell you is that Google is telling us we should do this, yet you have to take into context the fact that they keep saying it's going to happen, but it's not. So really could happen anytime, or it could happen in a year from now. And that was the best advice we'd give people. Now that Penguin has actually come out, how has that changed that relationship? What has the conversation been, and what kind of, moving to our next question, what kind of recoveries and drops have you seen since the new release?
Well, I'll start with that. So when Penguin 4.0 first came out, I remember I was on a train and I was going to be offline for 4 days. And considering that, like, my entire life has been about Penguin for years, that was devastating to me. And then, so I'm like trying.
Oh, sorry, I think you dropped out for a moment there, Marie. Are you still with us?
I think we lost her.
I think we may have lost her.
Oh no.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
So you were on the train.
Anyways,
That's where we last had you.
I was on the train. Right. Oh gosh, you missed that whole part. So I was on a train and I had no access to the internet to determine, like, what is Penguin doing here. And when I finally got back to the internet, it was like, oh no, here we go again. Nothing's happening. There's no improvements on any of the sites that I monitor. But it took weeks, and I saw some sites make fantastic recoveries within a few days of the announcement, and then I saw other sites that it was, so the announcement was late September. There were other sites in mid-October that all of a sudden it was like any suppression that was on them had lifted off. And so I saw a good number of sites. I'd say of all the sites that I've worked with that I feel were really suppressed by Penguin, probably 90% of them made some type of recovery. Now, it might not be to like #1 rankings, although a few of them did, but some of them were like suppressed to page maybe 5, and now they're at the top of page 2, and they need to be doing more work on good things to get good rankings. So so I saw a lot of really, really nice recoveries.
That's great. I mean, that's so funny. You're on a train when that happened. And you have done nothing but Penguin for literally at least 4 years now, right? I mean, that's around the last time.
I've done other things, but Penguin's been my top priority. So the irony of, and how many times, like we would have pools betting, this is when it's going to happen, and yeah, so for me to have and maybe it was a good thing, because I think if I had had internet access, I would not have slept for, for a few days trying to figure out what was happening.
Right. Right.
Well,
That's pretty
unlike Marie, my story is not as exciting, because Google tends to make these updates, unfortunately being in the UK, on a Friday evening in the UK about 6 or 7 p.m. So whenever they make an update, it tends to ruin my weekend, because yeah, I don't sleep. I'm just constantly trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was actually camping when I came back into town and found out it had happened. So I was a few days late on the news on this one.
I think what really struck me about when this rolled out was that there were far more recoveries than there were fresh hits, and I'm certain that I wasn't the only one that really felt that way. Like Marie, I saw like a lot of really beautiful recoveries, and was really happy for a lot of my clients that had put in a lot of time and effort into cleaning up. But and those are happening to this day. I think that we could make the argument that this volatility that we saw this past week, that there might have been a link-based component to something that got pushed out here, because I've seen previous Penguin hit sites make pretty dramatic recoveries with this last iteration. So, and as far as drops go, I don't think that, I think that it's more gradual losses rather than these dramatic sort of drop-offs or huge recoveries that we're seeing. So, and as I said previously, there are still, you can't swing a cat in a semi-competitive vertical without seeing sites ranking with shit links.
Right.
I think on the drops, what I've kind of noticed, similarly, that the majority we've seen increases, but anyone who's come to us post the update in September, it's been more targeted drops. So beforehand, obviously site-wide, it pretty much affected the whole site. Now it can be really just one or two directories within the site, a number of terms that the site's suppressed for, and they're still generating traffic on other key variables within their market. So I think that's one of the sort of major differences I've seen over the last few.
And that makes sense, because Google said that this Penguin is supposed to be more granular. So old versions of Penguin used to affect your entire site, and I used to say it was like they put an anchor on your site that would hold you down and keep the entire site from ranking well. So yeah, that makes sense. If you're seeing, I think I've seen the same, that certain keywords might not rank as well, or pages, but in all honesty, I have not seen a lot of hits with Penguin 4.0.
That's the big thing I've noticed, is I haven't seen a lot of news or a lot of big drops, not people tweeting about it. I've mostly just seen recoveries. I completely agree with what Paul was saying earlier.
Yeah, and I find that strikes me as odd.
I mean, it really does. I mean, do we attribute that primarily to the shift in the way Penguin is treating links, in the sense that they are just not valuing spam links versus it was once punitive and really targeting the site as a whole? Is that the reason why we're not seeing the drops?
I don't know. Sometimes the best answer to a question is I don't know, but we don't really know how Google treats these links now. Is it a binary? So they come across a link that they don't trust, that they just say, okay, this link doesn't get counted in any way, shape, or form, or is it providing a signal, whether it be positive or negative, in any way, shape, or form? And my guess is that it's not completely devalued, that there are still some signals that are passed via these links, or these sites wouldn't be ranking, or they wouldn't be affected.
100%. There's sites out there which are not only built on the spam, but there are a number of test sites out there which are only attracting that type of link equity. and they're ranking, and they're moving up in the rankings. So Penguin real time, from our perspective of being able to recover, is better for clients. Penguin real time, as in identifying this garbage, excuse me, in the link profiles and actually putting those anchors around it that we've seen on client sites, not so much.
Well, so here's the question then, guys. Does Penguin demote anymore?
I don't believe it. I don't believe it does. But I'm not
so
convinced that it's a binary. Sorry, go ahead. Marie.
Yeah. If you talk to black hats, I mean, the black hats that I see in my Twitter feed are 100% guaranteed for sure that Penguin still demotes. I haven't seen evidence of that, and that goes along with what Gary Ish had said, was that Penguin simply devalues spam and doesn't demote anymore. So I like Paul said, I mean, I think it's important to say that we're just speculating here and nobody really knows. But I haven't seen a lot of evidence of Penguin demoting anymore since 4.0.
I think it's still prevalent in some verticals, but not in general. I think some of the verticals that they've gone after previously would have tried to clean them up. For example, payday loans or the subprime lending market, then there are still kind of demotions within that kind of arena. But in the kind of mainstream, the majority of verticals, I haven't really seen a lot of demotion of late. I think that's one of the differences in where we are with Penguin now.
I haven't seen any.
Yeah, and I think those things you're talking about in payday loans and spammy verticals like that, those are probably an algorithm other than Penguin. And I'm sure we'll talk, I don't know if now's the time, but we'll talk about whether or not we need to disavow. And I think one of the reasons is that there are other link algorithms out there. But I think if we're talking specifically about Penguin 4.0, do you think that they've actually succeeded in making an algorithm that is better at catching spam? It's not 100%, but it doesn't unfairly penalize sites or even penalize sites at all.
Well, and from the link building perspective, it does seem like in the past we could build a lot of really good links, natural earned links from relevant sites that were quality, etc., that wouldn't have an effect because that anchor was on the site from being affected by Penguin. It didn't matter that we got great new links because there was too much spam and the site was being as a whole held down by Penguin. But it doesn't seem like we experience that anymore. If we build good links towards the site and it has even some questionable spam from the past, it's shown that it's been affected by Penguin in the past, those links seem to have a positive effect now, whereas in the past, that would be less common.
Yeah, and that brings up, that brings up another thing when we're talking about what types of recoveries we saw. The sites that I saw that made the dramatic recoveries to really good rankings were all sites that managed to get good links while they were suppressed, which is really hard to do. But I had a number of sites where they would be getting fantastic links, and just like you said, that nothing, they would not see any budge in ranking. And then those were the sites that it was like all of a sudden when the suppression lifted off, then Google recognized the good links that they got, and they were able to compete on a level playing field again.
Right. So Marie, you kind of alluded to this in your last answer. I think this is probably a good question for how's your recovery work changed with Penguin affected clients now that it runs in real time? It's been 6 months now, and like you said, there's other link algorithms as well. So maybe you can lead us into this conversation.
Sure. So I think the big question that comes up is whether or not we need to be doing regular link audits. So for me, because I do more work with recovering sites than with actually doing month-to-month SEO work, my workflow has really changed. And I get lots of people asking for link audits where I'm not really convinced that they need them. So in the past, I would tell people, look, if you have even the slightest hint of spammy links, then yeah, we don't want any Penguin suppression, so we need to be working on this. And now I've shifted to tell people, well, I would do a link audit if you know you have a lot of spammy links. If you have links that you or an SEO company made to try to boost your site in rankings, and those links really don't carry any value outside of SEO, then yeah, I still want to be doing the link audit for multiple reasons. I want to make sure you're not going to get a manual penalty. We talked about other algorithms that use links. But I think that it's gone back to what Google, when the disavow tool first came out, Google said most webmasters don't need to use this. And people just sort of didn't hear that. And so I get people all the time that they'll email me and say, hey, I found this one spammy link, I need to file a disavow. And that's not, it's never how it has worked. But anyway, so my point is that now I'm doing far fewer link audits, and the ones who I'm doing them for are sites that just have a constant onslaught of spammy links or have a real history and they haven't cleaned up with the links.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've kind of felt very similar shifts here as well. And even in general, it feels like our pipeline of prospects coming to Page One Power for link building was once filled with, it's felt like 75% of the prospects contacting us knew they needed link cleanup work of some kind, or that they at least wanted us to look at previous link building work and possibly make a disavow. It was like a majority of clients. And it seems like it's a lot less now that are even coming to us and requesting that type of work as frequently. Just anecdotally, that's kind of how it feels.
Yeah, I think
I would agree with. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Barrie. Go ahead.
Yeah, cool. I think the frequency of people coming in from that type of angle has certainly changed. From working with any sort of clients we've been working with over the years, or any new clients that come in, we'll obviously look at link profile from a starting perspective. But I think it makes good sense for the client to be continually pruning that link profile, monitoring what's going on. And the last thing that I want to do with a team is doing a link audit every single month on existing clients. So we kind of built a little tool where you throw in a disavow file, and then you can put in any links that you know have been acquired through good work, or any updates from Majestic or Ahrefs or whatever else, and it just shows you what's not in the disavow file and what is. It makes it a little bit easier then on a monthly basis to just see if anything should be added. Now, they're predominantly for clients in some sticky verticals where it does seem that some unscrupulous people out there think that they can go back to the days of Google bowling and throw enough at a site to try and penalise it, which we're obviously seeing a difference in since real time. But yeah, I still see sites getting hit regularly with some of the garbage that beforehand would have caused a lot more problems, but now, whether you disavow them or not, don't seem to be affecting sites as badly. But yeah, a little bit ongoing pruning I think is good, but yeah, certainly nowhere near the kind of inquiries that we had a few years ago.
And so you're talking about potentially negative SEO, sites where they're not investing in spammy links anymore, but they're still rolling in from whatever sources.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, we may as well disavow them, but I agree. I've walked into scenarios, recently looking at websites where there was a lot of recent spam rolling in, and no one seems to know why or where it's coming from, but it's happening, and they haven't been disavowing it, but they haven't gotten hit either. So we put a disavow together to make sure we're being proactive and monitoring it more carefully. But I agree. It seems like it doesn't seem to matter as much whether or not you're doing it.
It's that proactive element though, because I think that it would be amiss of us not to do that, and then lo and behold Google makes some other change and next minute the site has got some kind of anchor penalisation to it, and these are the type of links that are contributing to it. So it's kind of belt and braces, that although theoretically we're not kind of seeing any punishment from these type of links at the moment, it just makes sort of good business sense to just keep putting these into the disavow file so that the site isn't associated with them.
Yeah,
I would agree with both with what Barrie and Marie said, and when I'm doing disavow now, it's absolutely, there's no question that it's less aggressive, but I also find that I'm doing, you know, a considerable amount of work where I'm actually auditing disavow files, and I've talked about this before. You know, when sites were impacted by Penguin, a lot of SEOs were hyper aggressive on what they disavowed, and in many instances, really fantastic links were getting torched via the disavow file. And I think that it makes a lot of sense to go and revisit what was disavowed in the past, and only the most egregious links, in my opinion, should be disavowed.
100%, Paul. I mean, we had a client who came to us before, and had been in a situation previously. One of the things that we did first of all was look at their disavow file, and in their disavow file they had links disavowed from the BBC.
Mm-hmm. I've seen them from the Washington Post, the New York Times. It's ridiculous.
You know, most SEOs would cut their right hand off to get a link from the BBC, and these guys had it disavowed.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and most of that comes from people using automated tools, because I know I had one site that was run through an automated tool, and a link from the BBC was recommended to be disavowed. So have you guys found, I mean, I've done a little bit of auditing of disavow files, but I've yet to feel like I've made a big difference. What do you think, Paul? Like, have you found that sites are improving as a result?
I can't say with any degree of 100% confidence that reavowing links has led to a noticeable difference in traffic. But I think that we would be remiss not to do these types of things. It's just, I think that all penalty recovery now really it's changed so much in that there's not these smoking guns that we can really identify anymore. It seems to me that if a site has been impacted by any type of algorithmic event in a negative way or is at risk, that we should be fixing everything that we find, so that we put the client in the best position to either mitigate that risk or to recover. And I strongly believe, though, that we should be auditing disavows, and I do it quite aggressively. Like I say, the only links that I'm really disavowing are the most egregious, mostly to mitigate risk from manual action, and because you want to reclaim some link equity if you can.
Yeah, I agree. And you made me think of how when I first got started in this, I was just interested in SEO and took part in the SEO chat forums a lot. And when Penguin and Panda first came out, all I would do, I miss the days where just if you were able to segment Google Analytics to look at Google organic traffic, and then you could see, oh, there was a drop on this date. Oh, you were affected by Penguin or Panda. And so that's how I got started. I made a little $89 report where I would basically look at your Google Analytics and tell you, oh yeah, you've been affected by Panda. And in the years since then, it's evolved so much that you can't, so many of us got into this pattern where we're like, oh, you have a Penguin problem, all you need to do is audit your links. Oh, you have a Panda, all you need to do is this. And it's really changed now that in order to make a difference, you have to do everything. I mean, auditing disavow file is part of it. The Google's really, I know there's still spam out there, but they're really doing a better job at making it so that the sites that are ranking well are the sites that are actually decent sites. And so SEO should have always been this way, but really the people who are really doing well in SEO now are the people who can all around make the site better.
Yeah, you're 100% spot on, Marie. When we do an audit, the link audit or the disavow file audit is part of that. And then part of it has to be to do with, you know, the site from a structure, from an architecture perspective, from internal linking, from the content, etc. It's bringing that all together, because unless you have something that is truly optimized, looking at every aspect of it, it will not perform the way that the client expects it to, and you end up just fighting fires. So, you know, people just thinking, yep, I'll just do a quick Penguin audit and a disavow file using an automated tool, and that's fine. ain't going to work, ain't going to help you recover, not going to get you to the place that you want to be.
I mean, it was a twofold issue, really. I think use of automated tools was a really big problem. It's a red flag to me anytime a client tells me, yes, I compiled my own disavow file back in the day. I used some tools and we knew we were affected. It's just, there's going to be links from New York Times, Washington Post, et cetera, that are disavowed. But the other thing is that Google also was implementing so much fear and saying go at it with a machete, not a scalpel, and yada yada. So all of that contributed, and I think, yes, auditing the past work is huge. And for me, I agree that it has become more central to everything. And when I do any type of technical SEO audit, backlink analysis, it just has to be part of it, looking into the past. And you're right, segmenting by organic traffic, it used to be so easy. At least we can look into the past and see when in the past that happened to a website, if it's been around that long. But now it's so much more complex. I want to pivot this question just a little bit that kind of reflects that in terms of how we work on Penguin projects today. In the past, a lot of things were more simple and straightforward, like a huge drop in organic traffic on an exact date. Oh, April 2012, boom, and it's dropped. Or it was as simple as diagnosing the spam as segmenting by anchor text and finding which keywords were just over-optimized, very straightforward, which is a question we have from the audience right now. Does Penguin also encompass the anchor text as well, or only spammy backlinks? How's that changed, since the past? And I'd kind of like to add on to that. How has the spam changed that you are assessing? Are you seeing different types of spam since the newest Penguin compared to the types of spam you'd have to disavow with the first few iterations? How's that changed your work?
Well, I guess I'll go first. I think that Google did such a good job of instilling fear into the community that even though I still see it, it's not widespread where we see sites that backlink profile is just full of like really crappy directory sites and forum profile spam and article submission sites and just the most blatant obvious stuff, and that's really the stuff that I disavow. What I am seeing more of is more elegant spam, and I hesitate to call it spam. But these are links that are clearly are paid, and they're worked into content on legitimate sites where clearly the author has been paid to drop the link in there. And I think personally, I think that's I don't judge that. I think that if you're going to be creative and you're going to get a link that way, that's fine. I'm seeing a lot more of that. I'm seeing a lot more of elegant link spam, if you want to call it that.
Right.
Elegant link spam, I love it.
Well, elegantlinkspam.com. Contact us today.
Buy the domain now.
Yeah,
I totally.
Those links move the needle, right? So.
Yeah, I find on my link audits, I'm seeing a lot more spammy spam because ones where I'm doing a regular monthly link audit, it's people who have like a fairly large business that just collects negative SEO attempts, or who knows, maybe it's people trying to do reputation management and just. But basically what I'm seeing is the type of link spam that's automated, comment spam. They've used some tool to just spam the web. And those are, they're pretty easy to clean up. But I'm also seeing, so what Paul's saying is that we're running out of ways to easily build links. If you're not, I mean, obviously we all want to attract links. We all want to build great stuff and have the whole world want to link to it. But as an SEO, you have to actually find ways to build links. And so what I'm finding is a huge increase in guest posting. And it used to be that people would guest post on ultra crappy sites, and that was really obvious that those links needed to go. And now what's happening is we have these sites that look like relatively authoritative. And if you looked at that link on its own, you'd say, wow, good job, you got a link on that site. But when you look at the pattern, it's like that's all the SEO company is doing, is they have relationships with different sites that will post guest posts for their clients. And I'm not saying that's all wrong. I think there's a place for that, but I think people need to be careful. And I think I can see it happening where Google eventually finds ways to devalue links that are coming from guest posts. I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but that's what I'm seeing a lot of now.
So we already had the kind of sort of Matt cuts before he disappeared on us all. Please come back, Matt.
He's listening right now. I can see him in the attendee list.
On his take on
government agency, it's all obfuscated, but I think it's Matt.
On his take on guest posting. But I mean, I love the term elegant link spam. I'm going to use that one, and that's something that kind of has been a recurrence that I've seen lately. So if you remember, back when Google took severe umbrage to all of the newspaper type sites who were clearly selling advertorial that wasn't labeled as advertorial for the simple reason of content being up there for the link equity from it. A lot of the sites, a lot of the newspaper groups got punished. They were all outed. One of the most famous cases for that was obviously the Interflora penalty. And what I have seen recently is a lot of these newspaper type sites are back at it.
Yes.
They're back publishing content. It's clearly content for link equity's sake. It sometimes is in sort of classified type directories, which are very hard to get to. There is sort of one entry path to it from the site, but it's not consistently linked to. But it's obviously still providing some kind of link equity. Then the other thing we're seeing is going on from both what Marie and Paul have said from a guest posting perspective, is that, you know, we all know HuffPo. We all know HuffPo is a good site, but the amount of people who are selling HuffPo links on the contributor element, and HuffPo is not the only site out there. There's a lot of them out there that are doing it. And one of the things that this kind of ties into slightly was, you know, something else Google started to talk about and then never kind of followed through with or stopped it, moved people into a project like they sometimes do, was the great myth of author rank. And when they started to, you know, use Google+, they were trying to tie authors together. One of the easiest ones was they wanted to see footprints of where people were contributing to, and that was an easy indicator of where all these kind of sort of paid-for type links were coming from. And you can do the same thing, you know, a little bit of reverse scraping. You can take some of these authors on some of these so-called contributor sections, guest posts, and find all the articles that they've got out there. And, you know, 99% of them are clearly paid for links. The value that they are given to sites, well, they don't seem to be devaluing them in a post-real-time Penguin world. But the true value that you're getting just from that type of activity, nah, not so much. But yeah, elegant spam, that's exactly what it is.
It's funny that you were talking about the advertorials. Sorry, Marie, go ahead.
Go ahead, Paul. No, you go, Paul.
I just, a month or so ago, finished a large job moving a manual action on a large site, and it was primarily all advertorial links that had led to the manual action, and there was a massive amount of it, and it was enough so that it was clearly obvious, but they weren't impacted in any way, shape, or form algorithmically. As soon as the penalty was lifted, traffic returned to historic levels.
Interesting. I was going to say on the author thing, I'm sure you guys have noticed this too when you do link audits. I've done some link audits where I open up a link and I look at the article and I go, oh, this was written by this guy or gal, and I've already disavowed links for articles before. And so if I, with my little world of how many link audits I've done, can recognize authors as like, oh yeah, this person sells links, then I'm sure Google can make an algorithm to do that. And I think that that might become a part of Penguin. And I think that we may see that when Google gets better at devaluing this type of link, that a lot of really well-known sites are going to suffer, because that's been like the sort of acceptable link building tactic to go crazy with guest posting. So it'll be interesting. That's my theory, that we're going to see a lot of drops at some point in the next year.
It's an interesting perspective. I totally agree. I think guest posting is kind of in a state of renaissance right now, and definitely the most common link building tactic being used right now. But I think one of the weird outcomes of the echo chamber of do content marketing as your link building, do good PR as your link building, has resulted in this type of link that's mostly just kind of a PR style bribe, where authors are getting paid to drop a link to one specific client, one-off type links, or agencies have built relationships with lots of these authors, and so they have a whole network of links they can guarantee, which, a lot of people, I think, have loved about this style of link building, is that it's very guaranteed. Money exchanges hands, backdoor, and it's difficult to assess, but there's like two different types of this link spam I've seen. One where the author clearly just links to this one website. When you look at that website's backlinks, there's a pattern of this happening, and it's just so obvious it's a paid link. But then the other type is where they're doing this, but maybe they actually have a decent resource they're being linked to, and within the same blog post they're being linked to multiple other credible sources, .gov resources, another news website, and then this client. And you can still see the pattern, but is that a type of link that Google would necessarily, I wonder if it's another possible baby in the bathwater scenario.
Well, it's just more elegant, isn't it?
Right?
Right, and I'm not saying that all guest posting is wrong. I mean, I think there are some people that do it well, but I think anything that you do on a massive scale has the potential to stir up problems.
If history tells us anything.
That's the issue as well. That's the issue as well. You're bang on, Marie, that used in the right way, guest posting is a logical tactic to have in your arsenal. But like anything, when, in this industry, when we stumble onto something that's useful and a good thing, it tends to be abused. And what we're seeing at the moment is it's being abused in the wrong kind of ways. And all that's going to lead to is, I'm not saying the sort of same impact that Penguin had when it first came out, but there's something brewing in the water from them in relation to that, because they want the mantra of good content, they want the mantra of well-earned links, etc. And if they see something like this being abused, they're going to go after it.
Yeah, it's that's been the repeating history of link building, is that one tactic becomes ultra popular, over abused, overscaled, and then that's the next target.
Well, who knew that plumbers were going to be providing scholarships, for example,
Yep.
When you've got that kind of stuff happening, you know that something has probably jumped the shark, right?
Yeah.
That's crappy link building.
So with all of this in mind, we have one question from the audience that is kind of pertinent. What, with all of the spam we are seeing, with guest posting getting abused the way it is, what types of link building strategies do you feel are effective? What types of links do you see out there that you are not disavowing, that you feel people should be focusing on obtaining?
I think that one type of relatively easy to get link that I think is often okay is using HARO, help a reporter out. I'm okay with that. Again, provided it's not on a massive scale. If you're a small business and 90% of your links are from HARO mentions, that might not be so good. And then ultimately, I think it comes back to what Google keeps saying. It's not just build great content, but promote your content well. And so, I mean, I've seen many examples of sites that did something really cool in their community for the business, and then they contacted reporters about it, and they got written about it, and they got links for it. And that stuff is so much harder. As an SEO agency, I can't say to you, hey, I'm going to get you 100 links this month, but I could say, look, we're going to work on brainstorming ways to get people talking about the business. And when you find something that works, and it's going to be different for every business, then those links are golden. Now, that works great for small businesses, but I don't know. I mean, if I was like a big payday loans company or something, I think link building for those types of industries are going to be really hard.
Sure. And Paul, what I guess I'm pretty curious, in your blueprints for recovery, is link building part of that? And what sorts of advice do you?
If you don't have links, you don't rank. It's the core part of the algorithm, isn't it? And so yeah, if you don't have links, you're not going to score. And the problem with the link building now is as Marie touched on, it's not a scalable endeavor anymore. Each link building strategy, for the most part, needs to be customized to that individual business. And I'm a big fan of data-driven content, whether it be in the form of studies or case studies or interesting tidbits of information that could be packaged in content that are interesting to people. And then it's one thing to produce that content, but the real skill is being able to perform the outreach to the right kinds of people that are going to find that content link-worthy. And it's not simple. It's a grind. It's really difficult. And while I do believe that there is room for outsourcing link building to agencies or to individual consultants, I think that the way things that are evolving for medium to large size businesses, they're better to incorporate their link building in-house with the assistance of a consultant that can show them the way, because they know their business better than we do. And to link build in today's environment, I think that it's more of a PR marketing sort of exercise, and better suited to being done in-house. And a lot of times I'll have this conversation with clients, and I'll say that Google does not want to make your site popular. What they want to do is they want to rank popular websites. And if Google didn't exist, how would you be marketing your business online so that you are providing those types of signals to Google? Because that's what they want to see. They want to score and rank sites that are popular. And links are obviously the biggest signal that they're using in order to do that.
Right. More so than ever, as cliche as it sounds, link building is more about relationship building than anything else, and outreach is 90% of that relationship building work. And from our perspective too, one of the things we really, as a link building agency, one of the things we have to frequently consult prospects on, clients on, is that we are not the silver bullet. We're not the one thing you need to invest in if you want to be successful online. It's not that you just need more links. The issue is also your technical SEO and the structure of the site and the content and all of the spammy links, the passed and the disavowed, all these different things. It's about doing everything very holistically. And more frequently, we've seen where links aren't going to be effective if you aren't taking care of the whole picture. So that's, I think it's really reflected in our side too. And Marie, when it comes to bigger companies, it's much more, I agree with Paul, about consulting how to develop an internal link building process that will gain momentum, be self-sustaining and natural, versus small, medium businesses. There's more tactics available to manually build up your link profile and do it the right way. Barrie,
I think in the past.
Oh, go ahead, Marie.
In the past, we used to be able to take a mediocre website, and if you could get enough links to it, it would rank really well. And I think a lot of site owners cannot get out of that mindset.
Right.
And so I think if you were at all involved in SEO, within the last decade, you know that, like, people know that it used to be that you could take pretty much any site and rank it well with links. and that's changing dramatically. And so I think we really have to emphasize, like you said, having good technical SEO, having fantastic content, as cliche as that sounds, and really making a site that users would prefer. I see it all the time with e-commerce sites that say, come on, my site's just as good as all these other ones, why can't I rank well? And that's the problem, right? There's only so many sites that can rank in the top few places. So you can't be just as good as the other sites. You have to find a way to be like dramatically better so that Google is like, why are we not ranking this site well? And that's not an easy solution for most businesses.
Sure.
You're right. I think I mean, one of the things you always see in e-commerce type sites is, you know, they're like, my site's just as good as anyone else, but I've got 17,000 SKUs and none of them have unique product titles or descriptions, and there's no content on them. Why am I not number one for blue widgets? But for small sites, you know, it really comes down to, like you said, and like Paul said, about the relationships. You know, they know their business, they know their suppliers, they know their customers, they know the relevant sites in their vertical. And it's about using those relationships to try and establish the right kind and the right pattern without kind of leaving a footprint as far as links that are going to add value within their vertical. You know, those guys don't really have the money to invest in creating really kick-ass content assets and the budget that you then need from an outreach perspective to give it the right push and promotion to establish the right kind of buzz around it for it to have any kind of real impact. People want to throw content marketing out there as the solution, but, you know, just think about that. A lot of the content that you see, you know, it's garbage. You know, it's content for content's sake. So exactly as Paul said, it's about, you know, it's producing the right piece of content, right message at the right time to the right person that resonates with them. You know, and whether that's data driven or whether that's information driven, but it's got to mean something. And if it's not meaningful, then it means nothing to the audience. If it means nothing to the audience, it's not going to get any real links. So if it doesn't get any real links, you're just wasting your time, wasting your budget, wasting your effort. So every single link building program, for want of a better word, for any client in any vertical, it needs to be unique to them. Because, as Marie said, gone are the days where you could take a mediocre and sometimes less than mediocre site and make it rank.
Couldn't agree
Well,
more.
here's something that I think is exciting. What I think is really exciting is I'd love to know the number of people that would that used to call themselves SEOs that are not SEOs anymore because they have lost the ability to prop up sites with spammy links. What I'm finding is the pool of people who are really good at SEO is getting smaller and smaller because it's a really learned skill now. And so what I think is exciting is, like, I think there's huge opportunity for people to come in and learn the, I don't want to say the new way of SEO, but like the proper way of doing SEO. And you can make big money if you're good at it. So I think that instead of, like, there's so many people that have been focused on how can I trick Google into ranking this site well. And if just a few people switch the mindset to, like, let's brainstorm, let's find ways that this actually is going to be the best site out there, that there's a huge market to hire people who have brains like that can think like that. So that excites me, that I think there's a lot of opportunity out there in this field right now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the smoke and mirrors is gone, and then just on your point about who have changed their job titles, all you need to do is look at LinkedIn. You know, you see them all changing their title from SEO to inbound marketeer to growth hacker to whatever new term that they've made up the night before, and you see, you see a lot of that. And you're right that, you know, one of the things that I was most excited about when Panda and Penguin were released was that it was getting back to the old school. You know, the people who really knew what they were doing when this all started, when we were optimizing pre-Google, and you had to know what you're doing. You couldn't trick it anymore, and that's a great place to be. And especially if clients, customers out there, business owners will invest in money in bringing in people who have the right expertise. But we still see people being duped day in, day out by so-called SEOs who still want to use smoke and mirrors and try and trick them and you know, they don't get any solutions. They get a 3-month contract, and then when the 3-month contract's over, they move on to the next sucker to get another 3-month contract.
Yeah, that's all very true. I really appreciate all three of you being so generous with your knowledge and expertise in this webinar. We are coming up at the end of the hour. If there's any other closing thoughts, Paul, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add on to that conversation before we wrap up here.
No, I think that Barrie and Marie pretty much wrapped that up quite nicely, I think.
It's a very good summary of where we're at today. And you know, I agree with Marie that it is an exciting time to me that SEO is only becoming more legitimate, in my opinion, with the advent of this machine learning technology that has been able to push Google forward to a level they weren't at before. And I hope that over time there's only less smoke and mirrors, less tricks, and just legitimate people remaining that do this as an honest profession. So it's great to see SEO more legitimized throughout companies, and I mean throughout bigger companies it seems to be the case as well. So thank you all so much for joining us today. This was an incredible expert panel. This is a lot of advice I think people would normally pay for, so I'm very thankful for all three of you being so generous with your advice and knowledge.
I'll send my invoice over shortly.
Yeah, yeah, we're Agent Power split the bill, so thank you everybody. I'd like
Thanks
to
for having me. This was a good discussion.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to just end with let us sorry about that. Just operating to our final thank you for joining us slide. Here we go. But join us on March 29th for our next webinar. We're going to have another expert interview. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great Wednesday. This video will be posted online. So visit our webinars page in the coming days, and you'll be able to access the recording of this. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.